Hi, we're Tom and Cindy from the band O'Hanley, and we've put our instruments down for a little while now. We're going to venture into the world of Irish poetry. Ireland is known for wearing their emotions on their sleeve and express themselves, all their passions, all their sorrows, in poetry. And we're going to start off going way back to 500 BC with Amergin, one of the Milesians who were part of the Celtic settlement of Ireland. I invoke the land of Erin, much coursed by the fertile sea. Fertile be the fruit-strown mountains, fruit-strown be the fertile wood. Showery be the river of waterfalls be the lake of deep pools. Deep pooled be the hilltop well, a well of tribes be the assembly. An assembly of kings be Tara, Tara be a hill of tribes. The tribes of the sons of Mill of the ships, the barks. Let the lofty bark be Erin, let lofty Erin darkly sung by dark Eber's incantation, an incantation of great cunning. Great cunning of the wines of Brez, the great lady Erin. Erin hath conquered her, ere Aber hath invoked her. I invoke the land of Erin.
So we have quite a passion for poetry, and the poetry of Ireland is so intertwined with its history and its culture. And as Tom started this off with the poem from Amergin, from the ancient times invoking Ireland, that theme of a poet saying, "I am Ireland," continued on right through the present day, and we'll have a few samples of that for you now. This first one is by an anonymous author, written in about 913. It's just a single stanza that was probably a marginal poem written by someone. It's attributed to just an Anglo-Irish minstrel of the 14th century. Yeats then picked it up in a poem that I'll read shortly. I am of Ireland, and of the holy land of Ireland. God, sir, pray with ye for the saint charity. Come and dance with me in Ireland.
Padraig Pearse, the school teacher, the historian, the great lover of Ireland, the poet, he who loved Ireland's freedom and aspired to that, wrote a number of poems about that. And this is one of his most effective, short as it is. Mishira, older am I than the hag of Bear. Great my glory, I who bore brave Cohulan. Great my shame, my own family who sold their mother.
William Butler Yeats picked up that earlier theme of I am Ireland and wrote a poem of that name called I Am of Ireland. I am of Ireland, and the holy land of Ireland, and time runs on, cried she. Come out of charity, come dance with me in Ireland. One man alone in that outlandish gear, one solitary man of all that rambled there, had turned his stately head. That is a long way off, and time runs on, he said, and the night grows rough. I am of Ireland, and the holy land of Ireland, and time runs on, cried she. Come out of charity and dance with me in Ireland. The fiddlers are all thumbs, or the fiddle string accursed. The drums and the kettle drums and the trumpets are all burst. And the trombone, cried he, the trumpet and trombone, and cocked a malicious eye. But time runs on, runs on. I am of Ireland, and the holy land of Ireland, and time runs on, cried she. Come out of charity and dance with me in Ireland. So the bardic tradition of poetry is rich in Ireland, and there are, as you might imagine, quite a few poems written about the bards and by them about their own craft. And Tom is going to read to you now the one of Rafferty the poet.
Antoine Rafferty was a poet and a bard around the late 18th, early 19th centuries in Ireland. He was blind, and he would travel about the countryside reciting his poetry, playing his music. And this is one of his poems called I Am Rafferty. I am Rafferty the poet, full of hope and love, with eyes without light, gentleness without misery. Going west on my way by the light of my heart, feeble and tired to the end of my road. Behold me now, and my face to the wall, playing music for empty pockets.
Here's another poem about the bard that's also a national poem, written by Thomas Moore, and you may know many of Thomas Moore's poems as the lyrics to songs like The Minstrel Boy and Believe Me If All Those Endearing Young Charms and The Harp That Once in Tara's Hall. But this is a poem that, to my knowledge, has not been put to music, called O Blame Not the Bard. O blame not the bard if he flies to the bowers which pleasure lies carelessly smiling at fame. He was born for much more, and in happier hours his soul might have burned with a holier flame. The string that now languishes loose over the lyre might have bent a bright bow to the warrior's dart, and the lip which now breathes but the song of desire might have poured the full tide of the patriot's heart. But alas, for his country her pride is gone by, and that spirit is broken which never would bend. O'er the ruin her children in secret must sigh, for 'tis treason to love her, yet death to defend. Unprized are her sons till they've learned to betray, undistinguished they live if they shame not their sires, and the torch that would light them through dignity's ways must be caught from the pile where their country expires. Then blame not the bard if, in pleasure's soft dream, he should try to forget what he never can heal. Oh, give but a hope, let a vista but gleam through the gloom of his country, and mark how he'd feel. That instant his heart at her shrine would lay down, every passion it nursed, every bliss it adored, while the myrtle, now idly entwined with his crown, like the wreath of Harmodius, should cover his sword. But though glory be gone, and though hope fade away, thy name, loved Erin, shall live in his songs. Not even in the hour when his heart is most gay will he lose the remembrance of thee and thy wrongs. The stranger shall hear thy lament on his plains. The sigh of the harp shall be sent o'er the deep, till thy masters themselves, as they rivet thy chains, shall pause at the song of their captive and weep. Another common theme in classic Irish poetry is that of leaving Ireland and traveling, but always, the heart always seeking home. This is a poem written by Francis Mahoney, known as Father Prout, who lived from 1804 to 1866, and wrote a goodly number of very beautiful poems, and this one really struck my heart as that longing for home. It's called the Shannon Bells. And those are the bells, of course, in St. Anne's Church in Cork. With deep affection and recollection, I often think of those Shannon bells, whose sounds so wild would, in the days of childhood, fling round my cradle their magic spells. On this I ponder wherever I wander, and thus grow fonder, sweet Cork, of thee, with thy bells of Shannon that sound so grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. I've heard bells chiming full many a clime and tolling sublime in cathedral shrines, while at a glib rate brass tongues would vibrate, but all their music spoke not like thine. For memory dwelling on each proud swelling of the belfry, knelling its bold notes free, made the bells of Shannon sound far more grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. I've heard bells tolling old Adrian's mole in the thunder rolling from the Vatican, and cymbals glorious swinging uproarious in the gorgeous turrets of Notre Dame. But thy sounds were sweeter than the dome of Peter flings over the Tiber, pealing solemnly. Oh, the bells of Shannon sound far more grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee. There's a bell in Moscow with a tower and kiosk, oh, and Saint Sophia the Turkman gets, and loud in air calls men to prayer from the tapering summits of tall minarets. Such empty phantom I freely grant them, but there is an anthem more dear to me. 'Tis the bells of Shannon that sound so grand on the pleasant waters of the River Lee.
The Rising of 1916 had a great effect on the poet Yeats, as it did on many Irish, especially after the summary executions of the Irish rebels. And after that happened, he wrote this poem called Easter 1916. I have met them at the close of day, coming with vivid faces, from counter or desk among gray 18th century houses. I have passed with a nod of the head or polite meaningless words, or have lingered a while and said polite meaningless words, and thought before I had done of a mocking tale or a jibe, to please a companion around the fire at the club, being certain that they and I but lived where motley is worn. All changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. That woman's days were spent in ignorant goodwill, her nights in argument, until her voice grew shrill. What voice more sweet than her, when young and beautiful she rode to harriers? This man had kept a school and rode our winged horse. This other, his helper and friend, was coming into his force. He might have won fame in the end, so sensitive his nature seemed, so daring and sweet his thought. This other man I had dreamed, a drunken, vainglorious lout, he had done most bitter wrong to some who are near my heart. Yet I number him in the song. He too has resigned his part in the casual comedy. He too has been changed in his turn, transformed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Hearts with one purpose alone, through summer and winter seem enchanted to a stone, to trouble the living stream. The horse that comes from the road, the rider, the birds that range from cloud to tumbling cloud, minute by minute change. A shadow of cloud on the stream changes minute by minute. A horse hoof slides on the brim, and a horse splashes within it, where long-legged mournheads dive, and hens to moorcocks call. Minute by minute they live, the stones in the midst of it all. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, when may it suffice? That is heaven's part, our part, to murmur name upon name, as a mother names her child, when sleep at last has come on limbs that had run wild. What is it but nightfall? No, not night, but death. Was it needless death after all? For England may keep faith for all that is said and done. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. But what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in verse, MacDonough and McBride, Connolly and Pierce, now and a time to be, wherever green is worn, are changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born.
Continuing with those poems about 1916, I'll read you Patrick Pearse's The Rebel. I come of the seed of the people that sorrow, that have no treasure but hope, no riches laid up but a memory of an ancient glory. My mother bore me in bondage my mother was born, I am the blood of serfs. The children with whom I have played, the men and women with whom I have eaten, have had masters over them. They have been under the lash of masters, and though gentle, have served churls. The hands that have touched mine, the dear hands whose touch is familiar to me, have worn shameful manacles, have been bitten at the wrist by manacles, have grown hard with the manacles and the taskwork of strangers. I am flesh of the flesh of these lowly, I am bone of their bone, I have never submitted. I that have a soul greater than the souls of my people's masters, I have vision and prophecy and the gift of fiery speech. I that have spoken with God on the top of his holy hill, and because I am of the people, I understand the people. I am sorrowful with their sorrow. I am hungry with their desire. My heart has been heavy with the grief of mothers. My eyes have been wet with the tears of children. I have yearned with old wistful men, and laughed or cursed with young men. Their shame is my shame, and I have reddened for it. Reddened for that they have gone in want, while others have been full. Reddened for that they have walked in fear of lawyers and of their jailers, with their writs of summons and their handcuffs, men mean and cruel. I could have borne stripes on my body rather than the shame of my people. I say to my people that they are holy, that they are august despite their chains, that they are greater than those who hold them, and stronger and purer, that they have put need of courage, and to call on the name of their God, God the unforgetting, the dear God that loves the people, for whom he died naked, suffering shame. And I say to my people's masters, beware. Beware of the thing that is coming. Beware of the risen people, who shall take what you would not give. Did you think to conquer the people, or that law is stronger than life, and than men's desire to be free? We will try it out with you, ye that have harried and held, ye that have bullied and bribed, tyrants, hypocrites, liars.
One of the martyrs of 1916 was Joseph Mary Plunkett, a poet, an educated man, but at the time dying of tuberculosis. Before his execution, he was brought into Kilmainham jail, and that evening, or in the morning, he wedded his fiancée Grace. But while locked in his cell, he composed this poem. I see his blood upon the rose. I see his blood upon the rose, and in the stars the glory of his eyes. His body gleams amid eternal snows, his tears fall from the skies. I see his face in every flower. The thunder and the singing of the birds are but his voice, and carven by his power, rocks are his written words. All pathways by his feet are worn. His strong heart stirs the ever-beaten sea. His crown of thorns is twined with every thorn. His cross is every tree.
Thomas Osborne Davis, writing in the early 1800s, you may be familiar with his poem, The Girl I Left Behind Me, which is the classic fiddle tune used as a martial marching tune, has written many a poem, and one of them is The West's Asleep. When all besides a vigil keep, the West's asleep, the West's asleep. Alas, and well may Erin weep, when Connaught lies in slumber deep. Their lake and plain smile fair and free, mid rocks, their guardian chivalry. Sing, oh, let men learn liberty from crashing wind and lashing sea. That chainless wave and lovely land freedom and nationhood demand. Be sure the great God never planned for slumbering slaves a home so grand. And long a brave and haughty race honored and sentineled the place. Sing, oh, not even their son's disgrace can quite destroy their glory's trace. For often in O'Connor's van to triumph dashed each Connaught clan, and fleet as deer the Normans ran through Corleo's Pass and Ardrahan, and later times saw deeds as brave, and glory guards Clan Rickard's grave. Sing, oh, they died their land to save at Orum's slope and Shannon's wave. And if, when all a vigil keep, the West's asleep, the West's asleep, alas, and well may Erin weep, that Connaught lies in slumber deep. But hark, some voice like thunder spake, the West's awake, the West's awake. Sing, oh, hurrah, let England quake, we'll watch till death for Erin's sake.
The great 20th century poet Louis MacNeish from the north of Ireland was known for writing in irony. This is one of his more famous pieces. It's simply called Dublin, and his observations of the city. Grey brick upon brick, declamatory bronze on somber pedestals. O'Connell, Grattan, Moore. and the brewery tugs and the swans on the balustraded stream, and the bare bones of a fanlight o'er a hungry door, and the air is soft upon the cheek. And porter running from the taps with a head of yellow cream, and Nelson on his pillar, watching his world collapse. This was never my town. I was not born or bred, nor schooled here, and she will not have me alive or dead. But yet she holds my mind with her seedy elegance, with her gentle veils of rain, and all her ghosts that walk, and all that hide behind her Georgian facades, the catcalls and the pain, the glamour of her squalor, the bravado of her talk. The lights jig in the river with a concertina movement, and the sun comes up in the morning like barley sugar on the water, and the mist on the Wicklow hills is close as the peasantry were to the landlord, as the Irish to the Anglo-Irish, as the killer is close one moment to the man he kills, or as the moment itself is close to the next moment. She is not an Irish town. She's not English, historic with guns and vermin, and the gold renown of a fragment of church Latin, of an oratorical phrase. But oh, the days are soft enough to forget the lessons better learnt, the bullet on the wet streets, the crooked deal, the steel behind the laugh, the four courts burnt. Fort of the Dane, garrison of the Saxon, Augustan capital of a Gaelic nation, appropriating all the alien brought. You give me time for thought, and by a juggler's trick, you poise the toppling hour. A grayness run to flower, gray stone, gray water, and brick upon gray brick.